What's up, everybody? I'm Stan, and welcome to Detail Comics, where we go over comics in detail. This is iRate Reviews, the show where I go over a comic book, its story, its art, give you my impressions, and let you know whether it's something to go grab or not. I'm going to be talking about Justice League vs. Suicide Squad number 1. So JLVSS, which is a really kind of silly shorthand for this overall comic book, is a combination of two of the biggest franchises that DC has going right now, the Justice League and the Suicide Squad. And this is also partially because of the movie and things like that have come out. You know, the Suicide Squad came out this fall and Justice League's coming out next year or something like that. But these are really the two biggest power-packed teams that they could possibly throw together. So what we do is we actually start off in a situation where there's an infiltration, not necessarily of any kind of home base of either of these teams, but really of someplace else, a different place where they've kept some of the deepest, darkest secrets of the DC universe locked up. And this is kind of an interesting perspective because we don't necessarily know a lot about what's going on here, but we find out by the end of the book. Then we jump immediately into the Suicide Squad. So, you know, like you got Killer Croc, you got Harley Quinn, you got Boomerang, you got Deadshot, you've got everybody, Enchantress, you've got everybody that really makes up this Suicide Squad team at its core, headed onto this, you know, abandoned island, and they're taking on this kind of like death culty thing. So what you see is you see everybody kind of laying out their own different stuff. You see the interactions between Amanda Waller and the team. You see how Deadshot has kind of taken the lead, and Rick Flag is unfortunately nowhere to be seen. They sent the team on a mission without their leader. So that was an executive decision by Amanda Waller. And as we kind of move through this scenario, we see that there's evidently a plot to kind of take this piece of technology that's going to create an earthquake that is going to decimate this entire island, and they're going to use this as an offering for this god of this death cult. So it's like a pretty far out there kind of system, kind of structure that's going to go. It's a really kind of complicated plan. I don't necessarily know if that's the kind of plan that I would, enact if I was the member of a death cult. But hey, cool, whatever, if it kind of moves the story along. When we get to the final confrontation of the leader of this death cult with the Suicide Squad, you know what? It's just a single pull of the trigger because Deadshot is the man. Unfortunately, that's not enough to take out the technology that was going to be causing this earthquake, and Deadshot, making his peace with the finalness of this whole situation, saying goodbye to his daughter in the photo, takes his running leap and jumps off into the building like, hey, I'm out. Peace. And just, unfortunately, it's not his time to go because Superman comes in. So how did Superman and the rest of the Justice League know about this situation? If we flash back to the earlier part of the book, what we see is Batman calling together the Justice League, getting everybody together, and introducing them to the concept of the Suicide Squad, letting them know that Amanda Waller's there, letting them know that he went on a mission with them, and that she used that opportunity to steal information from the Bat computer. Which is weird all on its own. If you want to see more of that, you're going to have to check out Batman number 13, but I don't really feel like it plays too huge a part in this story overall. What it comes down to is that this is a pretty kind of, I want to say that it's lackluster in terms of how this reveal kind of happened, simply because the Justice League should already know about the Suicide Squad, and the fact that they don't just means that they haven't asked the question yet. It's really funny because they explain how the Suicide Squad is meant to be passed off to the general populace, like honor amongst thieves kind of situation. But then as soon as they ask the question and Cyborg starts running the numbers, he's just like, oh, if this is the case, then blah, blah, blah has happened, this is happening now, they're over on this island, and that's when the Justice League kind of heads over there to take care of everything. And what we see is a distinct difference. The Suicide Squad solved the problem by eliminating the man at the top, but they have so much collateral damage that the Justice League comes in and takes care of. And you'd think at this point in time, it's just like, hey, you know what, we're kind of on the same side, guys, but they're actually trying to free the prisoners of the Suicide Squad from the hold of Amanda Waller, because Amanda Waller's doing some really ridiculous stuff to them. But Deadshot just hops on the comms and he's just like, hey, what do you want me to do, boss? What's your thought? You got the finger on the button. Are you going to blow my melon off if I start heading off for the Justice League? And she's like, do not get captured by the Justice League, otherwise you are dead. And that starts with the big, giant splash page reveal of the whole, Justice League fighting the Suicide Squad in the super comic book fashion. We do have a couple different pages at the end of it which show a little bit more. It alludes to this other nefarious team that's going to be kind of behind the scenes. I don't necessarily want to spoil that for you guys because I'm really surprised with Justice League vs. Suicide Squad. Joshua Williamson did a really good job, and I really like the art by Jason Fabic. This is really a very strong start to a crossover series, not necessarily because the story has depth, but because I can forgive a lot of the shortcomings because of the spectacle. I'm coming into this with the sense of spectacle as really my main focus. And I like the opportunity that these like anti-heroes, villains, that, they kind of get caught up in the mess of, hey, I have to save my own life, so I have to fight the Justice League. Normally it'd be like, oh, okay, cool, I'm chill, I'm gonna go back to my prison cell. But when they have a bomb in their head, it's just like, okay, that's a very different story. They've got to kind of follow Amanda Waller's lead, otherwise they're totally toast. So this really becomes more of like the Justice League versus Amanda Waller and her tools instead. The big thing is definitely going to be this other villainous team that is really going to be the linchpin villain characters. So what we're probably going to do is we're going to see the Suicide Squad on the run, kind of in conflict versus the Justice League, but not necessarily to the same level that you would expect, like a big superhero kind of clash, two very distinct sides. I mean, I wasn't really a huge fan of Justice League. I wasn't really a huge fan of Suicide Squad as the comic books themselves. But this kind of combination of them, I feel like I'm going to enjoy it, in a very fun sense. It's not necessarily going to offer me a lot of depth or development, but it's going to offer me a lot of entertainment value. So I would have to recommend that you take a look at issue number 1. It might not be for you, it might be for you, I don't really know. But that's one of the decisions that you're going to have to make. So that's my review of Justice League vs. Suicide Squad number 1, but I want to know what you guys think too, so hit me up in the comments down below so we can start that conversation. That's always fun. As always, if you like what you see, hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe right there to get more news, reviews, and commentary on comic books, comic book movies, comic book TV shows and games, and anything and everything inside the world of comics.